Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Tuesday, June 12th, 2012. Welcome to the Sports Blitz. I'm your host, Daniel Fleming. I'm so excited because football season is right around the corner. It'll be here before you know it. And starting this week, I'm going to preview all 32 NFL teams and project how they could potentially do this upcoming season. I'm going to do a one division each week, and that's going to take us all the way through the month of July. And I'm going to start this week with the NFC South. And I wanted to start with that division for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's closest to home as far as where I live and where a lot of my family and friends live. So they have a lot of special interest in that division. But number two, I really think that this is going to be the most fun division to watch in the upcoming NFL season. I really think that all four teams could possibly have a winning record. I think that all four teams are either good or have made certain changes that are going to make themselves better. And I really think it's going to be an exciting division to watch with a lot of high-powered offense. And it's just going to be very exciting and very competitive. And I want to start, obviously, with the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints have had a very tumultuous offseason. You know, for those of you that don't know, their former defensive coordinator, Greg Williams, was allegedly running a bounty scandal where he was paying his defensive players to try to injure players on the other team. And he was suspended for at least a year. Head coach Sean Payton was suspended for 1 year. The general manager was also suspended, as well as a couple of the assistant coaches. And 3 or 4 of the players, the defensive players for the Saints, were also suspended, including their really good linebacker, Jonathan Vilma. He was suspended for the entire 2012 season. So I really feel like that's going to affect the Saints, you know, in some way. Obviously, they've been an elite franchise for a few years now, especially since Drew Brees got there. And speaking of Drew Brees, he was franchised and given a 1-year franchise deal, but he is really seeking a long-term contract, and the two sides are not that far apart, and hopefully they'll be able to work something out. They should have been able to already, because I really feel like Drew Brees is one of those rare athletes where he can name his own price. I mean, he led the Saints to their first ever Super Bowl title, and just this past season, he set the NFL single-season passing yardage record. So it's very important, I think, for the Saints to give him that long-term deal. I mean, he deserves it. You know, what do you want him to do, throw for 6,000 yards? I mean, he's done so much on the field as well as in the community, especially after Hurricane Katrina. And he just means everything to that franchise. He's the straw that stirs the drink. So I really feel like that Tom Benson, the owner of the Saints, and the entire front office needs to pay Drew Brees and give him that long-term contract that he deserves. And when Drew Brees eventually gets into camp, he's going to have a lot of weapons around him. The Saints have as many as 4 running backs that they use, and they also have a great tight end in Jimmy Graham, and they have a great group of receivers led by Marcus Colston. Like I said, their defense is going to be affected in some way because of the whole bounty situation, but I still feel like the Saints could potentially have a great season, and I fully expect them to make the playoffs. And moving on to the rest of the NFC South, this is a big year, I think, for the Atlanta Falcons, and in particular for quarterback Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan has done very well in the regular season, but he's yet to win a playoff game. So the questions are starting to come out about whether or not he is able to take that next step and become an elite quarterback. Obviously, if you want to be an elite quarterback, you got to do well in the playoffs. The Falcons, I feel like, made a very big acquisition. They traded for defensive back Asante Samuel. He's really going to help their defense. The Falcons have a great offense as it is, but I really think Asante Samuel is going to solidify that secondary, and he's going to help John Abraham, who's their real good pass rusher. And, you know, Asante Samuel is one of those rare defensive backs that you can just put on the other team's best receiver and just let him play one-on-one. You know, he has that ability. And looking at the Falcons' offense, like I said, they have a lot of weapons. They got running back Michael Turner, who's easily one of the top 10 running backs in the National Football League. They got two excellent receivers in Roddy White and Julio Jones. And they've got one of the greatest tight ends of all time in Tony Gonzalez, who is still playing at a high level, even in his 30s. So I really feel like the Falcons are going to have a great year as well. And another exciting team to look out for in the NFC South is the Carolina Panthers. And of course, the Carolina Panthers are led by Cam Newton, who had an amazing rookie season. He threw for over 4,000 yards. He threw for 24 touchdowns and rushed for 17 touchdowns. Of course, Cam Newton had an amazing year a couple of years ago at Auburn, winning the national championship and winning the Heisman Trophy. I mean, he's just an amazing physical specimen. And the Panthers, I really feel like, are a team that's on the verge. You know, they got a new coach in Ron Rivera, who's a real defensive-minded head coach. And if their defense can stay healthy, then I really feel like Carolina can improve upon what they did last year and possibly contend for a playoff spot. I'm not sure if they'll win the division, but they can definitely contend for one of the two wild card spots. And I'd like to see them, you know, improve and possibly contend for the playoffs. And it'll be interesting to see if Cam Newton has a sophomore slump or if he's able to improve upon what he did last year. And hopefully he'll be able to. Finally, you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who had a lot of high expectations going into last season, but it turned out to be a disappointing year, especially for their quarterback, Josh Freeman. He's one of the athletically gifted young quarterbacks in the league, but it'll be interesting to see if he can take that next step and continue to improve as a passer and as a quarterback. And Tampa Bay was really busy in the offseason. They went out and signed Vincent Jackson, who's a real good wide receiver who used to play for the San Diego Chargers. They also signed Dallas Clark, one of the top tight ends in the National Football League. Even though he's been battling injury the last year or two, he was one of Peyton Manning's favorite targets when they were in Indianapolis together. And Tampa Bay also drafted Mark Barron, who's an outstanding safety from Alabama. He's going to help their secondary in a big way. And looking at the rest of their defense, they also went out and signed Bay Minette, Alabama native Wallace Gilberry. And he's going to contend for some playing time as a pass rusher. He used to play for the Kansas City Chiefs. He played with them for 3 seasons and, of course, played his college ball at Alabama. So that's a look at the NFC South. Hope you guys enjoyed this week's edition, and I hope to see all of you next week.